Welcome to Built from Scratch. On this show, I interview entrepreneurs under 30 to hear about the stories of their initial success. My goal is to encourage the next generation of leaders to take action and make a difference. I'm Eric Libby, and on today's episode, we have entrepreneur Justin Pruitt with Juice Products. Originally from Colorado Springs, Justin grew up excelling in both basketball and football. In March 2022, he began attending Fayetteville State University in North Carolina, where he played Division II football. In 2023, Justin launched his business to the Juice Products, inspired by the realization that many everyday products are filled with harmful chemicals. The mission became personal after his mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Since then, Justin has been featured on local news channels, won thousands in pitch competitions, and continues to invest his time in the next generation. Justin is only 20 years old. Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Eric. Thank you for that amazing introduction, bro. I really appreciate it.
It'll be fun. No, looking forward to our time. Just looking into some of the stuff on what you've accomplished, Justin. It's so cool, and I'm sure you get this all the time, but you're 20 years old, man, and you are out there just hustling. And I mean, even just seeing some of the inspirational things that you're doing with the next generation. I mean, going and speaking to these groups, super cool. I want to start back at the beginning. This is how we start every show, just to look into what life was like when you were just a kid. I want to paint that picture. What were you doing when you were a kid?
As a kid, man, I love sports. One of my favorite things to do as a kid was go fishing. So I love to go fishing. I love to be outdoors. I grew up kind of like my dad had me in like Boy Scouts and stuff like that, like as a young kid. So like I love being outside, building things, learning about things, growing and finding ways to just like push myself. So as a kid, that's really what I did, man, and just learned a lot. As a
Very
kid.
cool. Did you, looking back when you were younger, were there certain things? Obviously, you're in entrepreneurship now, but do you remember some of those initial? Was there anything you did that was like entrepreneurial when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, I remember I did some lawn mowing. I did like some lawn care. I did. I remember like I would sell like candy sometimes and like do a lemonade stand, but I never really took it as seriously as I did now. But you know, as a kid, we kind of move on. We play with our friends. It's not as serious, but yeah, bro, I definitely did some entrepreneurship
When
things.
you were starting. That's cool. And
Yeah.
and with when you were starting, did you have like, were your parents encouraging this? Were they like, hey, Justin, you know, all these neighbors, they got like lawns that need to be mowed. Like you got to get out there and go get going on that.
Somewhat. I'd say somewhat. My parents, they pushed me at times, but I feel like they just wanted me at the time to just kind of be a kid. I was kind of young. But they saw some success in it, and they're like pushed me a little bit, but they weren't too like
Not too much on. So you just kind of just self-started. You were like, all right, I want to make some money and see where this thing goes.
Exactly.
I'm curious, what were those first, if you remember, Justin, what were those first few steps when you were just getting started on those lawns? Was there multiple lawns where you're like knocking on people's doors to say, hey, can I, like, what was the initial, how did you get that started?
Yeah, really. I remember me and my friend went on, it was Google Docs. This is before like Canva was big. And we like made some flyers. We made some flyers as most entrepreneurs do. We made some flyers and we started passing them around, just like passing them around and pinning them up around the neighborhood. And we ended up getting some calls. We're like, hey, we need some weed to be pulled and stuff like that. So me and my friend were like, oh my gosh, let's go, man. Like, got the first place. Like, let's go, man. Let's go. So we ended up going over there. We did the job. We did great. And we got paid like $25 for it. And then we kept going. And then we ended up getting a call. And this person was like, yeah, we're going to need a lot of lawn care done. And we're going to need these trees to be broken down, cut down, weeds to be pulled. We're going to need the grass to be cut. We're like, whoa.
And you're 13 at the time.
Yeah, I'm 13. So I'm like, okay, I got you. We could do that.
Love it.
So I'm like, we get over there. And we are way over ourselves. It took us like, I think a whole full day from like 8 a.m. to like till 9 p.m. at night. And then we had to go back over there again. And it was just like, yeah, I think we're going to have to rethink this and get some more tools and things like that from what we were trying to do.
Wow. Incredible.
So
you said that to the first customer that you got, Justin, was...
That was like my second one.
Second one? Okay.
Yeah.
And you, to get these customers, you said you were doing something on Google Docs, like a little flyer on the Google Docs?
Yeah, it was a Google Docs flyer. And then we ended up passing them around. And then we just got a call. I had my number on there, our email. We got a call. A text, and it kind of just worked out like that. That's really how it went.
Very cool. It's funny. So whenever I go to speak at some of the local schools here, so I'll go to my former high school, which is called Matanzas High School. I'll highlight my initial story of when I first got started on the To-Do Dudes. And the first story is me printing out almost identical to that. Me printing out, it was a Google slide. It looked terrible. Do you still have that first one that you made? Could you find that somewhere?
I gotta find it.
That is going to be gold. If you can go like 20 years in the future and now you build your big empire and you come back and you look at this was part number one. You didn't know it at the time, but this is part one. But that first flyer that I made was, I mean, I was wearing a hooded sweatshirt. I put some like cool little tagline on there, like put the little price and started passing them out. But I mean, that's simply to highlight for people that are just starting, even though you were 13 and that was maybe before you consider entrepreneurship. It's so valuable just to be able to say, I'm going to create a little something and just get started and see what happens. And it's okay that big project happened. Now you move on to the next thing, right? So then we get closer down your entrepreneurship career. And so like I highlighted in the intro, Justin, I think it's an important thing to touch on. In 2020, your mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things that you talk about on your website and just part of the passion story that you have is just realizing how much are the things we use, the everyday products, the food we eat, the things in our shampoo are just so bad for us. And there's not really much we can do. And a lot of people aren't educated on that. So your idea stemmed from there, but I'd love for you to give me the pitch on, you have this problem. Now, how do you come up with what is your solution? How do you come up with a solution?
Yeah. So, I mean, and really in society, chemicals are a really big factor in society. So what I really did is I saw the problem. I saw the problem society of chemicals in our foods, on our bodies and our products. And I really decided to make a solution for that. So now I make organic body products that I created. It's all organic, it's natural, and I make everything from herbal ingredients. So I get all my ingredients from my garden, and I make products now that are safe for our skin. They have no pesticides, no preservatives, no sulfates that a lot of times will dry out our skin, will hurt our skin, and also poison our skin. So I found a way to do that in an organic way and a natural way, and it's been really successful. And yeah, that's really what I've been doing.
When you first were starting this, was it something that you and your mom together were like, you're like, Mom, I'm going to try and solve this. Like, this is just ridiculous. The things that you have to consume, like walk me through those initial conversations. Cause obviously you felt very passionate about it because this was happening to your mom.
Yeah. Initially, after like seeing her going through her process, it was more so of also seeing like, does she even have products that she can use? Because originally I know a lot of the products that she used could have a reasoning in her getting this cancer. Because if you look at it, the aluminum just in our deodorants can get into your bloodstream and cause a lot of these diseases. A metal is not supposed to be in our bloodstreams, right? It shouldn't be in our products or deodorants. And then we look at a lot of the other products that she's using, and she's using these products while she's going through this cancer treatment on top of the other the treatments that's very toxic to her body. So I decided that, hey, how can I help her heal through this? So it wasn't really like more so like I talked to her about it and she was really happy to hear it, but I just really took it to myself and started creating things
to make it happen. It's crazy. So I was just talking to someone the other day and they were telling me about their experience. I can't remember the full details of it, but in the hospital, it was a big hospital. Somebody was in the hospital and they just had a treatment done. And this person in particular wanted to get some fruit, like simple. It should be a simple ask at a hospital asking for fruit, but they said, no, we don't have any fruit. What we have is all sugared up like applesauce. We have Coca-Cola products, all this stuff. And it's crazy. It's like in the hospital, why is there not? And so it's crazy how it's baked in. That's like everything it's all around us. And it's so tough to avoid. You have to be so diligent. If you're not thinking about it, you're going to be putting stuff in your body that's just pure junk. So I think as kind of a tangent on our conversation here, but I think it's important. It's a really important topic. What are some of the things that we should be, maybe you can just highlight a few, some of the things that we should absolutely stay away from. And then maybe your general rule of thumb when picking, these are the good products that we should be going after.
Yeah, so a lot of things I would say to stay away from are preservatives. A lot of like the sulfates. I'd stay away from a lot of the metals, the benzo alcohols, the alcohols in our products, because they put a lot of alcohol in the products and it dries out our skin and our bodies. I really don't understand why they do a lot of these things. They put a lot of hydroxide, a lot of these things that you can't read. A lot of hydrochloride, a lot of these things you can't read, they put in products. And a lot of them it is not needed. We don't need a lot of these chemicals in our products. There's no reason for them. They say it's for preservatives, but there's natural preservatives that you can actually put in your products. One is called radish root. and there's some other ones too that are like organic, but I don't know why they don't do it. I feel like we do know why, because they don't want us to be healthy. They want us to continue to depend on the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry that isn't here to heal us, but it's meant to just to continue to make money and keep us coming back. So, I mean, yeah, those are some things I'd say to stay away from, and really look into some different organic solutions. But I really want to go back onto what you said before about how at the hospitals they don't even have the organic foods there for you. When did they want to get you better? And I was at the dentist, and I'm going to the dentist getting just my checkups and everything, and it's like after I get done with my checkups, they're like, "Hey, do you want some warm cookies?" And we just got them fresh out the oven. I'm like, "Why are you giving me warm
At a
cookies
dentist.
at
Yeah.
a dentist?" Like, we can laugh about it and think it's funny, but like it's really just like really sad that like you're
Wow.
doing that, and money is such a bigger factor of our health.
That's
You know,
crazy.
when we
Yeah.
look at our teeth and our mouths, that's one of the biggest places where diseases start. It happens in your body. Once you get a root canal, it causes disease in your body. So it's like I just think back on that. I'm like, wow, like it's so sad that they are more worried about the money than our own health. They want to poison us instead of trying to heal us. And I think that's really my purpose, is to solve this big problem.
That's crazy. And so you take some steps towards that. So you have this problem, you're realizing that this is happening in all of our food and all of our products, and it impacts your mom. And then you're like, you know what? I want to get started. And so part of your initial start, which I think is a really funny story, how it all began, I think it just highlights the entrepreneurial so well, is your first batch, you start and you invest $400 and realize quickly that you lose all the $400. It amounted to nothing. Walk us through that initial story when you lost that money, and then what happened after that.
Yeah. So I had bought all my ingredients. I had got everything. I had ordered everything. I'm getting my stuff, my herbs. The herbs are, some of them are harder to get at the time. So I get everything. I'm excited. I start making my batch. I'm making a video on it, dude. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm so excited. I make the video. Um, and then I start making it, right? I start making it, and I'm like, start smelling. I'm like, something doesn't smell right, right? So I'm like looking at the thing. I'm like cooking it, because I had to infuse it. I have to infuse the ingredients
Sure.
together so it can be the right formula, right? So I infuse it, but then I start to realize that the smell wasn't right. And I'm like, okay. So I look at the batch and everything. I'm like, huh. So I pull it off, and I'm like, it doesn't smell right. And I take it outside. I'm like, dang it, I burned it. I realized I turned the temperature up a little too high. So I burned it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was just about to, go out to school and sell it, and I was super excited. I wanted to go and, show everybody my vision, my product, and I'm like, dang. So I had to pour everything out. I poured all my stuff out. Had to go back over there. Luckily, I ordered enough to where I had enough for another batch. So I was like sitting there. I was sitting there, and I was like, man, this is just crazy. My first time ever this happened. So I'm like, so whatever. I did it again. Did it again the next time. I turned it to the right temperature. It was perfect.
Right
Smelled
on.
great. Was the perfect batch. It was like God really. It was like, hey, like that first one didn't work, but this one really did.
You got to persevere. You got to move through
Yeah,
that. So when that first batch, so it was on one, it was day one, it didn't work. And then you tried again. It was a 2 day thing. So one day, no, it didn't
yeah,
work. You tried again the next day.
exactly. So I
How
did
did you tell the people in your life like that were like, oh yeah, Justin's gonna like go take this on, and then did you tell them like, hey guys, I tried this and it just was awful? Did anybody know about it?
Yeah, my actually one of my closest friends, my roommate, he was there like seeing, witnessing like the whole thing. So like he knew about it.
And he's like, man, Justin, do you know what you're doing, man?
He was like, bro, like, but he's like the most supportive brother like I've ever known, brother.
Love
He's
it.
my brother. He's my brother. Like he's been there with me, and seen it happen, like the vision. So yeah, bro, it was definitely like funny at the start. I just poured it out. It kind of sucked, but at the same time, I was like something to learn from. And my next one was amazing. And then the next day I went out and sold it at my school and just did a pop-up shop. And dude, like it was the most amazing feeling ever, because it's like the support. Not even the fact that I made a lot of money that day, but it was like the support and feeling of like, wow, like people actually like love what I have. Like they're looking at it, they're like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. The juice products. I wrote a message on it of like telling everybody like my vision and how they can start their own reality and escape this matrix that we live in, and you don't have to just work for somebody else, but you can start your own thing too. And like the same thing like that you're doing, like you start your thing and now you're successful at a young age, bro. So it's just like it's something I believe in, and it allowed me to just really see this that I can do it. So it was really really nice.
I love that you highlighted that. So I think I've been thinking about this so much, especially coming into 2025 year, trying to plan our goals for the new year, is thinking about how to tell the story properly. And so if you go in there as a commodity, or you just say, here's like another hair product, probably not as successful. And we don't know. I mean, we could have done that and maybe it would have been different. Maybe you had friends that were like, oh, I'm such a fan of Justin, like anything Justin does, I'm just going to buy it because like I trust him, I know him. But there is the value of a story. So on those bottles, you said like your mission, like what did that actually look like? Do you remember what that said on that bottle?
Yeah, it was it was a long one. I actually changed it now because I added directions to it because it was when I first starting. But I know I was like, I'm an 18-year-old visionary that has started my vision and pursued my vision, and you can too. You can attack your vision. You can do this. I know I said it was the sooner that you start now, the easier it'll be.
Beautiful.
And procrastination kills all your goals. And then I added my quote: "Always be your most authentic self. The most pure, true will always win in the end."
Man.
And after I added that, but I had some other things. I kind of forgot some, but it was like a long thing I added. But it was like kind of my start. And
that's a story. People buy into that, man. You're tying to people make emotional decisions, and when you can show them, and you're making them feel by being an inspiration, leading from the front. You're saying, "Hey, I'm doing this right now, and I hope to be an inspiration to you. I hope you can start." And like, as people, we look for something to look up to or look forward to, and so you're painting that vision. But it's a genius. I mean, it's a genius way to start. And so that first pop-up shop, I think you said it was like $1,000 in sales that first day. That's crazy.
Yeah, my first day I hit 1,000 that first day.
Wow. And so I love to know, and I think I don't think everybody gets fortunate to launch their product the day before and then sell $1,000 worth of stuff. What did now the next steps of customer acquisition? I think this is really where it'd be helpful to the audience that's maybe thinking, I really want to start my thing, but I just don't know who to connect with first. How did you go about after this pop-up shop? You get the confidence going. How do you acquire those first few customers after that?
Really, I'd say the biggest thing is getting them on an email list. So I'd say get them on an email list, get them on a message list so that you can keep them in contact and keep them up with different updates. My way of doing it, which was pretty different at the time, because I didn't really think of doing the emails because I was very new to it. I just got their Instagram and I took a picture with them and I tagged them. So what would happen is I took a picture, I tagged them, me and them together, and then they would repost on their page, right? And then other people would see it. And then other people would go and stop by my place and be like, "Oh, wow, I heard about you. I saw you." Right. And then they would their whole community would know about me. And then after that, like us making that genuine connection, that picture kind of kept us as like a strong, it was more of a community that I was building with my school and the people that went there. So I would say advice for people is like, get their social media, take a picture with them, tag them, allow their community to see what you're doing. It'll help you grow in the long run.
Incredible. That's genius. I mean, you're connecting just kind of almost subtly, being like, hey, just let's take a picture. I'll post it on there. And then you're getting like the network effect. The one person tells, instead of just one person tells 500, who tells 500 more. And immediately, like within a couple of days, you got a business going. That's incredible. Justin, I'd love to know. So obviously we've been in business now. It's coming up to almost 2 years, right? Is it a year and a half? Yeah. What has changed? I mean, what are some of the things that have changed since your start to today in business?
I'd say some of the biggest things that I kind of changed is like my vision within my marketing aspects too, because now I did a lot of in-person, and I will continue to do that and continue to get into different stores. But now I'm really looking at like a vision of doing it on the online sense as well. So I'm really making a plan to really start pushing in the online sense, because I know like nowadays everything's online. If it's TikTok shop, if it's Amazon, if it's Instagram. I'm not really a big social media person, but I really push myself to be one because I know that's where the world's going. But I'd say that, and also my vision has definitely grew. It's grew. When I first started, my vision was very big, but I think as I've gone on, I've made it even bigger because I see what really God can do for me. And as long as I keep walking through the right doors, like, man, I can accomplish anything. anything I want to do in this reality, I can create it. So I knew that before this, but I also it's pushed me to even go even harder now, bro.
Trust the process.
Yeah,
There's a verse I love, and there's it's come up multiple times in my life, and at really critical moments I've seen this verse and changed my life. But it's walk by faith, not by sight. I think it's in, I want to say Corinthians, but I could be wrong. But walk by faith, not by sight. You don't need to see what's in front of you, but you need to believe it, and it'll come true, which is crazy. The other thing I was going to touch on there too is on the social media side, and it's just a minor point, but something good to highlight is moving from a consumer of social media to a producer of social media. So being the creator rather than doing consumption. I try it as much as I can. I'm pushing out content consistently, but we get sucked in, and sometimes you get sucked into that, and then you just like you almost forget where your goal. Yeah. You forget
comparing yourself. Yeah.
And comparing yourself, you almost forget your vision, because you're like, man, I just spent 30 minutes. You kind of pop your head up and you're like, what was I even doing again? Like, I totally forgot what I was starting. It's like a distraction. Sometimes it can be good for connection, but we have to be mindful of how we use it and using it for an intentional purpose. The final thing on business for right now is and as entrepreneurs, we go through a lot of difficult times. Is there a moment in the past 2 years that you could highlight that maybe it was with your team, your employees, maybe it was with launching the product or trying to get into stores? Like, is there something that you could highlight as like the most difficult experience that you've gone through? One of the hardest moments that you had to experience, and you came out better, but going through it was just a nightmare, and you had a good learning lesson from it.
Yeah, I'd say knowing how to knowing how to separate friends and business and team. I think that was like a really hard thing that I had to kind of learn, because it's like not every friend is for your business, and you have to know like how to build a certain team, because when you try and tell like your friends, it's like you can have friends, but it's like knowing how to separate that at the right time. Because when it's business, it's business. So I'd say that was some things I kind of like struggle with to start. I'd have my friends come and like help me out and things like that. But then I realized like, well, sometimes it's not always the most dependable. I'd have some that are very, very, but it's like, hey, like I'm running a six-figure multi-million-dollar business that I see. And I have to really treat it like that. So I'd say bringing the structure to my business is one of the biggest things that was hard for me, is structure. And having like a solid team. But now that I've learned that, like I'm building my team that I have right now that I'm building, it's going to be great, bro.
Good people.
It's working really well. I'm super excited. And I just learned like, hey, my friends, I love my friends, but at the same time, like I got to make sure like I can't depend on them to do certain things that a business partner should be doing,
Was there can you recall any difficult conversations you had to have? Is there anything that you could highlight that you had to put that line in the sand? Because I've had that same thing. I've had to do that on my end. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you get to a point where you start out and it's just kind of like buddies, right? And then you have to get to the point where, is there a conversation you remember? Is there anything you've had to do? And I think I know it's a hard thing to talk about, but it is important for somebody starting a business, because they have to know it's not easy. It's not easy to have those conversations.
Yeah. I had some hard conversations, about like, being on time, like, hey, if we're going to do this, and I'm going to, you got to be on time and got to be more like, professional about certain things. I think those are the harder conversations, I had to have, outside of just like my business. I do mentoring, and, I run a team of like 30 different guys, that we do mentoring at high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. And there were some times with some guys that I actually had to cut from the team. I had to like sit down with them and meet up and say, hey, like I'm going to have to cut you from the team because you haven't been on time. You've been late. We haven't really seen you being active. So I had to have some difficult conversations in that sense, in that team aspect of it. And I learned a lot just through leadership and how to do that. But it was pretty tough, bro. You have to really be ready for that, because it's like, you got to cut somebody,
It's not a fun conversation, but when you set expectations and then you move the bar constantly, then then the good players, then they get the idea that, oh, we can, if we're doing so good, it's like Justin's going to move the bar. But when you set the standard and you stay to the standard, and the people that aren't meeting the standard are off the team because they can't hit it, then it just makes those A players even better, because they're like, I know we are competing at the highest level here. think it's good. I've had multiple of those conversations too.
Yeah.
A little of a transition, Justin, and I think this was one of the coolest things that I saw about you. You very open about it on social media, and it's really about what you believe about the world. And I saw a few posts that you had on the law of attraction, some of the books that you've come across, and I would love just to highlight is like maybe what you've learned in these past 2 years as an entrepreneur, but I suppose your life, like what truth you've come to. What is the law of attraction? What does that really truly mean to you?
Yeah. I'd say to start, the biggest thing that I learned was we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And when you learn that business is spiritual. Just like you said, one of the Bible quotes, sometimes you don't have the sight. Sometimes you don't have the vision. Sometimes you may not see things, but and a lot of times in life, you may not always see things, you may not always see God standing at the door, but business and life is spiritual. And once I learned that, I learned how to walk in that path and also learn how to attract the things to me. The law of attraction is just meant on our thoughts, the things we do, the daily things that we think about, we attract those experiences. We attract those things. We're a magnet. Our minds are a magnet. Our minds are connected to the ether. It's connected to the universe. So whatever you send out to the ether, you're going to bring down and attract to you. So that's why having optimism is one of the most key things you can have if you want to attract your reality, because, delusion and optimism is two things that you need together. If you ever seen somebody that's very negative or pessimistic, a lot of times they'll attract those experiences to them because we attract those things. So it's like, I think about every day, how can I be optimistic today? It can be hard at times because things won't always go your way, because at the end of the day, this reality is a video game that's going to teach us different levels. In a video game, it's always harder and harder levels. It's always harder and harder bosses. What happens to entrepreneurship? It's a new level. It's a new boss you got to fight every day. It's just a video game we live in. So it's like, how can I beat this video game? And the way you do that is by keeping your thoughts positive and working hard.
Why do you think we've become so distracted? Because I think for most people, like, it's really, I wouldn't say I probably would say that it's really hard to have that thought process. Like, we are so distracted by the worldly things. We are constantly going off pace, and we don't think about the bigger, the greater good, the possibilities of what we can create. Like the people that do hold that true, the law of attraction, I think they are few and far between. It's not common. How do you think we've become so distracted as people?
It's a program. It's a program. First they have to program our minds. If we weren't distracted, then a lot of us would be more successful. And with more success means there would be less people. There'd be less people on a bad path right now if more of us were not distracted. So I say it's the program. It's the social media. It's the daily things. It's the control from the world, the news. It's everything, And I think the hardest thing for us as the youth is just not how do we not stay distracted? How do we stay on our purpose? And that's the biggest thing I think that we have to do as society. But that's really what I say is just the media. It's kind of hard.
We're constantly fed negativity, so to have a different thought than that, it takes
a lot.
Which I love this word, but intentionality. Very intentional with your actions. You have to know you're going to be taking it in, and you have to almost guard against that. Guard your heart against this negativity from the world that consistently can make it in, and say, despite that, it's almost like the what is the, not Socrates, it's a way of life. I forget what it's called right now. I'm blanking on the word, but it's basically not good and bad. It simply is. And you have to be able to things are going to be bad. And it's like, but what good can I find in it? Things are going to be good. And it's like, okay, again, what good can I find in it? But no, it's not going to stay like this. So I need to keep pressing. I forget does that sound familiar? That way of stoicism. There you go. Stoicism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it in a sense of law of polarity. The law of polarity means there's always going to be up and there's going to be down. I mean, there's always different poles. There's always different opposites. So it's like, back to law of attraction. It's like your emotions, I think a lot of people, we should realize is your emotions are the things that attract, because your emotions send out a vibration that then attracts that other vibration, that either negative or positive experience. All things are attracted through emotions. So if you're let's say something bad happens, right? And you're mad, you're sad, you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. Your emotions were going to attract more of those experiences, right? But let's say let's say a bad thing happens, and instead of you getting mad about it, you breathe, you say, hey, it's all right, it happened, I'm gonna keep moving on, and it's okay to have emotions, but it's like, how long do you stay in that? Do you get depressed about it? Do you get hurt about it? You got to keep moving on. And if something good happens, you get excited, but at the same time, hey, I deserve this. It's meant to be. So when you think of a sense of like, I deserve this, you don't think of it like it's oh my God, this is so crazy it happened. No, I've worked hard for this. I deserve this opportunity.
Thank God for both. Thank God for the highs and thank God for the lows. God, you're putting me through this because I can take it. And once I take it, there's gonna be another side that I'll see that I've never seen before. So those times when we're in our lowest moments, which I want to touch on next, but with times when we're in our lowest moments, that's the time that it's like we just got to keep fighting because we've made it to where we are today. Like we're standing, we're living, right? We've gone through multiple. We can look back and say, man, there has been some really bad times of our life, but we're here, so we've gotten through it. And so now anytime we go through the valley, we have to understand there's another side to it, but you gotta bull rush through it. You just gotta keep moving. It's like it's gonna suck for a bit, but you get back to the other side, and then there's always you come back up the mountain, and then you're gonna do it again, and you're gonna keep getting better. Like you said, you're gonna keep playing new levels, you're gonna keep fighting against new bosses. Crazy, man. So what do you do, Justin, when things are going very well? And I'd love to know on the other side, how do you get through those low moments? So start with when things are crushing it, is there any actions that you've realized that you take to like keep those good times going?
Yeah. I'd say when things are going really well, I just push more into it. I go as hard as I can. If things start running, I'm running with it. Everything is a flow. It's a flow state. So how can I stay in the flow? When a river is flowing, you got to keep up with the rhythm. You don't swim against the river. You go with the river. So that's really how I keep it going. And when things aren't going well, that means it's time for me to continue to plan and continue to prep. Sometimes there's a time to prep, and sometimes there's a time to cook. And you just got to know when it's time to do both.
Beautiful. If you could go back to your younger self, maybe that's at the beginning of your entrepreneurial career, what advice would you tell yourself?
Yeah. That's a good question, Eric. I really say keep that same imagination you got. Because before you start this whole thing, you got an amazing imagination, amazing vision. But when things start to get hard, you can't allow that imagination to go away. You can't start to compare yourself. Because it's kind of crazy. Once you start, you feel like you're the only one in the world doing it. But then whenever you start to get up there and you start having to look at your competitors and how to be different and how to scale to the next level, you start to compare yourself and you start to ask yourself, well, can I really do this? Is my vision that I'm setting out really going to work? And I tell myself right now and in my young self is that you're different for a reason. You're chosen for a reason. And you know what you got to do. So just keep going because guess what? Somebody did it before you, so why can't you?
Why can't you? What does Juice Products look like at the pinnacle, at the very, very top? You've made it. You fulfilled the vision you set out to do.
Yeah, the Juice Products would be one of the most high value, high quality organic solutions to products that have chemicals in it. That's really how I see it. It's going to be one of the top holistic healing products that you can get on the market. My vision is to see when somebody sees my products in Sprouts or Trader Joe's or the top farmers markets, they're going to look at it and be like, wow, this is a high quality product that I know is safe for my body, that I know is organic, that I know is natural, and that I know is going to bring me positivity and love to my body and to my mind because I know who created it and I know what it's created for. I know the purpose of it, so that's where I see my brand. That's where it's going to be. And man, it gets hard sometimes, bro. Like it does, bro. But I know I got to keep going, bro. I know I got to.
Part of the hustle. It's part of the grind. The ups and downs. We're going to go through it.
Exactly. Got to keep going.
We're going to finish with how we conclude every episode, Justin, and it's reading off the quote that means the most to you. And for those listening, you heard it about midway through there, which I loved. Is a quick little snippet before we get to this point. But the quote is, always be your most authentic self, the most genuine, real, and pure, always win in the end. And Justin, this is your quote, and I'd love for you to tell the listeners today what this quote means to you and how the next generation can take this as words of encouragement to go change the world we live in.
Yeah, when I created that quote, that's what I live by. I live by being genuine and being pure because at the end of the day, like that's how we got to move. That's how Jesus moved. He moved in a genuine way, in a pure way that showed love. And that's why a lot of blessings came his way. So as people, we can move in that way and continue to move in a solid, consistent, pure way that we can really help heal the world.